Welcome to RICO 12. I'm Justin B., your host, and a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and an addict living in the miracle of recovery one day at a time. RICO 12 is an open to all addictions and afflictions organization dedicated to exploring the common threads of the differing manifestations of alcoholism, sharing tools, and offering hope from those walking a similar path. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and locations to learn from and support one another. Our speakers come from various fellowships and experiences demonstrating the universal principles of recovery. RICO 12 is not allied or affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. This is RICO 12 speaker meeting number 412. Thank you for joining us live or on the recording later. Today's speaker is Candace B., who has spoken once before with us on RICO 12. You can find that and any of the other previous recordings on the RICO 12 podcast. We're continuing our 12-week series this week on each of the 12 steps of recovery, and Candace will proceed with step 3 today, and I'm looking forward to diving into this conversation here in a few minutes. But first, a few quick announcements. RICO 12 offers a variety of recovery resources, including other podcasts, social media communities, etc. And I'm in the process of developing a few more things and super excited about getting those out in the next couple of months. To explore more and stay up to date, visit RICO12.com. You can go there. You can also get on our mailing list to make sure that you get emails with any updates and information. And you can do that by sending an email to rico12pod@gmail.com. I'll put this information in the chat and in the show notes of the podcast. So come join us in all of these different places. RICO 12 is self-supporting, and your contributions help us continue this message. For information on how to do that, I'll put stuff once again in the chat and the show notes. You can go to our website and click on support there. And thank you this week to Stephanie for your donation. Your support, both financially and by word of mouth, truly makes a difference in helping us share these messages of hope and recovery. All right. Each week, we receive light and inspiration from our speakers. Their experience brings hope, meaning, worth, and growth to us as listeners. Now, I want to welcome today's guest speaker, Candace B. from South Africa. Here's just a little bit about her. Candace is a recovered love addict and codependent who found recovery through SLAA and CoDA by working the 12 steps using the undiluted message of the AA Big Book. Her recovery includes freedom from love addiction, fantasy, people-pleasing, and codependent patterns. Through a living relationship with God and daily application of the steps, she continues to grow in emotional sobriety. Today, Candace is actively involved in an emotional sobriety group and works with others, living the work one day at a time as a living testament to God's grace. Candace, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Justin. Can you hear me clearly? Oh, yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. And it's a very good evening from South Africa. I'm Candace B., and I am a recovered love, codependent, you name it, addict. And tonight we are on step 3, and I'm so grateful to be here, Justin. And this, when I work with sponsees, they always say to me, but you always say that, but this really is one of my best steps. So let's dive right in. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. Now that on its own is a 20-minute discussion. There is so much in just this wording of the step. When I'm making a decision, I now know that there is an action that I'm going to need to take, and that's the beauty of recovery. It's never in the wishing and the hoping and the thinking and the willing. It is always in the doing. And when I'm taking action, then I know I'm taking some kind of, there's something that I'm going to need to do. And so what are we going to need to do in step 3? Well, we are literally turning our will and our lives. What is my will? My will is my thinking. My thinking, all my thoughts. And what is my life? Well, that's everything else. It's my actions. It's my day. It's my decisions. It's my attachments. It's absolutely my entire life. Where I think I'm going, how I thought it should be, where I am on my journey, every single ounce of it, I'm turning over to God. But the next piece is just so comforting, because when I hear care of God, then something shifts inside of me, because I'm not just handing it over to anything or anyone. I'm handing it over to some power that is way greater than me, but it's a caring power. And now suddenly something starts to shift as we understood God. So it's how I experience God. And this can be found, the step can be found on page 59 of the big book. So before I can even step into step 3, I need to look back on step 1 and 2 and really see for myself personally. Not somebody telling me. I need to see for myself that I could not manage my life. Oh, my word, I tried. And probably on the outside, it looked like I was doing quite a good job. But my life was completely unmanageable. It really was a matter of the harder I tried, the worse it got. Couldn't understand how my relationships, how my marriage, how my finances, how my career, how every single ounce of my life just got harder the more I exerted myself, the more I tried, and the more efforts I put in, the worse it got. And in the big book, the third step is found between page 60, 61, and 62, and all the way to 63. And I love the piece that speaks about, we are literally trying to run the show. And we can't understand how we are directing the lights. And we are literally, we're the actors in the show. We're directing the lights and everything we're controlling. And we're really exerting ourselves and we're really trying really hard, but somehow the show just doesn't seem to come off. So then what do? We try even harder. And that really, really was me. And the harder I tried, the worse it got. And that's how I know my life was unmanageable. The next thing I had to see before I even stepped into step 3 was that absolutely no human power whatsoever could help me. I tried everything. Trauma counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, group therapy, individual therapy, you name it, no human power was ever going to relieve any kind of addiction inside of me. And that I also had to see that when I came into these rooms right in the beginning, that the people here were believing in a God of their understanding, and they kept telling me that God would if he was sought. What did that mean? It meant that I needed to look for God, seek God, find God, and then he would show up. And so when I could see these 3 things, then I was ready to take step 3. And what is that requirement? Well, the first thing I had to see was that I was running on self-will. I will never, ever forget one of my very early sessions with my sponsee, and she said to me, so we read this together, and it says, selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. And I said, hold on. I just want to stop you there for a moment. I said, I know that the big book says that, the root of our troubles is selfishness and self-centeredness. And I promise that's not me. I said to her, I'm codependent. So that means that I'm selfless. I'm completely selfless. And in actual fact, I need to learn how to be more selfish. Those words literally came out of my mouth. Well, her look on her face was just this. She never said anything. She was the sweetest thing ever. And the next morning I woke up and it was a revelation of, oh my gosh, I see it. My codependency, my people-pleasing, my martyring, my rescuing that was disguised as selflessness was all for my gain. I needed to be loved. I needed to be cared for. I needed to be chosen. I needed me. I. Not by any fault of my own, but really because at some stage, maybe when I was very young, that was me protecting me, and it was now hugely outdated and it needed to go. And God was going, let's just look at this. So the next piece says, okay, so I've got the selfishness and I've got the self-centeredness, and that's the root. The root. When I think about a root, it means it's like the very, very deepest cause of my troubles. And when I go to the root, I then find that it is literally driven by 100, I'd like to say 1,000,000, but 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. my goodness, this thing keeps picking up my hand gestures. So fear, I was a petrified lady in her 40s who was literally like she was 5 years old. So fear, self-delusion, everything was a delusion. What I thought was true was never true. And I was looking for myself and I was feeling so sorry for myself. So every single one of those, I love this next piece and how I've interpreted this. So it says, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So how I interpret that is, it's like a dancing analogy. I'm dancing and I need to stay in my side of my dancing with my partner. And because I'm either irresponsibly taking on their side or they're on my side, I step on their toes and they retaliate. And that was really my life. I was pissing people off everywhere, but it's because I wasn't on my side of the street. And yes, they hurt me, but I always, without exception, had something to do with it. And just today, I experienced this in full force. Last night, my daughter and I were having the most beautiful mommy-daughter moments on the bed. She's 15, and she was being so silly. We were laughing from the pits of our belly. And I was like, oh no, I've got to get this on camera. So I take out my camera and I record her. So she says to me, Mom, promise me that you will show nobody this video. So I said, sure, my angel. Well, her dad came to fetch her stuff today because I've got my kids 1 week on and 1 week off. No. She said, Mom, promise me you won't send this to anybody. So I said, I promise you, my angel. So her dad arrives and I call him aside and I say to him, if Mika knows that I'm showing you this, she will literally kill me. So you, whatever you do, do not tell her. So I show him, he thinks it's absolutely hilarious. And off I go to lunch and I just start getting these messages. Mom, I thought I could trust you. You said you wouldn't. I can't believe. And everything inside of me went, I can't believe he told her. And for the next 2 hours, I tried really hard to concentrate and be present in the lunch that I was having with a business thing. But all I could think was, it has to be his fault. It absolutely has to be his fault. Because I told him that he can't tell her, and now he went and told her. But the truth is, this piece is so true from the big book. And it says, yes, he hurt me. But what did I do? So I phoned her and I wanted to. Yes, I typed out I went to the toilet. I typed out their message. I was just about to hit send. I was like, no, I'm going to have to make amends tonight in my step 11. And so I just kept pausing. And 2 hours later, I phoned my daughter and she was beyond pissed off with me. And she had every single right to be. And so I said to her, but my angel, she goes, no. And she's so right. She says, Mom, don't you go and make this Dad's problem. It was you that I asked to not tell anyone, and you showed him the video. Well, I was completely bowled over, and I had to phone and make a real, genuine amends. I was in the wrong. She trusted me, and I broke her trust. And so, really, there is no gray area here. No matter ever what happens, I can sit here and try to blame someone else. But the big book tells me that there's something I did to cause this. And when I can get to the root of that, that really is the solution. So our troubles are our own making. Oh, really? Really? All my life, it was never me. Well, step 3 tells me it actually is me. And so they come out of ourselves because I'm an example of will run riot, although I usually don't think so. It's not I don't usually think so. I hardly ever think so. So above everything else, I have to be rid of the selfishness. So in other words, my being needs to be rid of it. And how does God remove something from me? Well, he's going to bring me a real life situation again and again and again and again when I choose not to be selfish, choose to get out of self, choose to get into someone else. And that is slowly how he removes my selfishness. It says, yeah, we must or it kills us. And it really, really does. But here's the good news. And this is why I love step 3 so much. God makes that possible. I cannot do this without God. I cannot absolutely do this without God. I tried and it absolutely didn't work. So there seems to be no way of getting rid of self without God's aid. Okay, so many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore. I had many, many reasons why I could do it on my own, but it absolutely didn't work. So and I can wish for it to work, and I can try for it to work, and I can exert all my self-will, but I had to have God's help. And that's where I stepped fully into step 3. So what do I need? It's the essentials of recovery. I step into step 3 and I go, am I willing? Yes. Am I honest? Well, at least as much as what I can be, because as I go on this journey, there's many times when I find I'm really dishonest still, even though it is my best intention to be honest. And then humility. I honestly believe that humility is the most attractive feature on anybody in the whole wide world. And humility comes from making mistakes, getting it wrong again, and being flat face, dirt face in the ground, and asking God for help. And that really is where step 3 comes in. So I need to see that my life doesn't work without God, and I need to quit playing God again and again. How much evidence do I need to see that it doesn't work? I saw I listened to a lovely share by a lady by the name of Teresa. I've heard many of her shares. And she says she wants to one day be employed to be the GPS on an addict's, navigation system on their phone. So we're driving along and the GPS says, okay, turn left. And that's God, right? And we go, I'm going to turn right. And the GPS goes, no. I said turn left. That's a really, really bad idea. Oh, okay. Okay, my darling, let's see. Let's go along. Oh, now you're lost. Now you're horribly lost. Now you need my help. Sometimes I think I have a forget me stick and I know it doesn't work, but I forget. And then God helps me to remember. And then I forget. And then God helps me to remember. So my step 3 tells me that I have a principal, I have an employer, I have a director, I have a father. And when I think about that, a huge, huge weight is lifted off my shoulders because I'm like, everything that I thought I had to figure out on my own, every burden I've carried, everything that has felt heavy and soul destroying, it's not mine to carry. And I have something way, way bigger than me. So I step into the step 3 promises. And in here, it really does put things into perspective for me. When I took such a position, what position? When I fully conceded to the fact that I had an employer and God was my director and that I was his agent. And I love the analogy of agent, secret agent 007. And me with my addict brain, I want to know everything now. And even yesterday isn't quick enough. And so I spent so much time obsessing about trying to figure out, trying to analyze, and to get all the answers. And this says, okay, so you're a secret agent. And when a secret agent is given a mission, they absolutely are not given the entire mission right at the beginning. They're given only what they need to know in the moment. And then they're given a little bit more and a little bit more until their mission is complete. So I now know that if I don't know something, it's because God hasn't revealed it yet. And so I don't need to know it until God reveals it to me. And what a great relief, right? I don't know the answer, and God hasn't shown me. And the truth is, sometimes it comes quickly and sometimes it takes ages. But I just need to keep knowing and reminding myself that I am not God. I do not see the future. I do not have the bigger picture. And because I don't know it, I'm not meant to know it. So we had a new employer, and being all-powerful, God provided what we needed. Not necessarily what we wanted. I've often thought I've gotten a lot of things that I've wanted in my life, but they almost killed me. And God knows what I need. And so this piece of this step 3 promise tells me, you might not like it, you might not want it in that moment, but it's exactly what you need. So God will provide what I need if, and there's just 2 really simple requirements. I love how simple this is. If I keep close to him and I do his work well. So that means I need to be tapping into that source, establishing and growing that relationship with my higher power as much as humanly possible every single day for the rest of my life. And I need to be performing God's work well. And God's work, it's everything. It's how I show up as a mother. It's how I show up as a colleague. It's how I show up as a daughter. It's how I show up as a friend, as a sponsor, as a fellow. As every single role that God assigns me as his agent is the work that I'm performing, and that's where I need to perform my work well. And then the rest is taken care of. It's so simple. Okay, so when I'm established on such a footing, I become less and less interested with myself and my own little plans and designs, because now that I have this employer who is really showing me every time I rely on God, things are better. Every time I hand things over, every time I stop controlling, things get better. They get easier. And so I now look back and I'm like, oh my word. Those things that I had planned that I thought were huge, they were little designs and plans compared to what God had in store for me. And that's what this promise is, our little plans and designs. And now I'm going to become more and more interested in what I could contribute to life. This is chalk and cheese compared to the Candace who was empty, lonely, and just felt like the most useless human being. I wake up every morning and I go, where can I help? Where can I contribute? And then here comes the next promise. We feel new power flowing in. You see, our problem was that we were powerless. Why? Because we were running on self-will. It wasn't working. Now I step into step 3 and I am not interested in my little plans and designs, and now I feel this power. It's the complete opposite to that desperate powerlessness that brought me into these rooms. And I enjoyed peace of mind. Oh my goodness. Like anybody who is an addict will know that the peace of mind, you cannot put money on it even if you tried. This obsession of the mind, of the thoughts that never stop. Well, step 3 tells me, hand it over and it will be calm. It will be quiet in there. And I will discover that I can face life successfully, and I will become conscious of God's presence, and I will lose the fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter, and I will be reborn. So fears, fear of today and tomorrow and for everything else. And really, those fears have, and I love to say they've been removed, and then they creep back in. But again, if I look back, it is absolutely chalk and cheese compared to where I used to be. So there is nothing like perfection. And God sent me something the other day, which was so great. And it was, Candace, progress is perfection. And really, as long as I am showing up every day and noticing, I truly believe that more than 80% of the magic lies in the noticing. If I am noticing, it already tells me that I am recovered. Because before I wasn't noticing. I was fast asleep and I was living in a complete oblivion. But today I notice when I make a mistake and I make amends. I notice when I am not okay and I am trying to run the show. And so this step really for me is about surrender. And this, I want to speak for a moment about, Bill W. He wrote a few articles, not too much actually, on emotional sobriety, and he called emotional sobriety the next frontier. In other words, once we had, it had the obsession of picking up and using or acting out had been removed from us, we were still left with our fears and this spiritual malady of, restlessness and discontentedness. But actually what I've come to realize that emotional sobriety is, it's a complete letting go and detachment from anything that is not higher power, God, source. So anything, people, outcomes, finances, career, where I'm going, everything I need to let go of. And the surrendering process is freaking painful. And I love Nikki M. I've often heard her say, "No shit, Sherlock. You're actually like, you're dying, like a piece of you. You're being reborn. Like birth is painful. And death is just as painful. So you're being reborn and you're dying. So why are you surprised when it is painful? The pain is all part of it. And every time I'm sitting in pain, I remember that. And it gives me another opportunity to surrender. And I'd like to say, like, sometimes it's really, really intense. And I think it's more intense because I'm not turning to whatever I did that took that discomfort away before. Not food, not people, not scrolling, and I'm sitting in it. Like that's got to be painful, right? But when I surrender, everything that I don't surrender doesn't work. Everything that I cling to really, really hard and try to control, it doesn't work. And God will show me that again and again. And God, the God that I believe in, that I've come to believe in and experience, is the most patient God that I have ever met in my whole entire life. Because he is willing to show me, source is willing to show me the same thing again and again and again, 300 times a day for 300 years probably. And he's like, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to get this when you get this. Let's keep going. So yes, I think I'm done. And for me, the third step prayer, I'm gonna reserve right until the end because I'm going to take us out with a prayer. However, this surrendering, my eyes open in the morning, and before I can do anything, am saying my third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, and 2, 3, 4 times, because when I wake up in the morning, my addict has literally been doing jumping jacks, push-ups, sit-ups, and the first thought that wakes me up in the morning is, what shit is going down? What are you bracing for? Who do you need to apologize to? What have you run out of? What didn't you notice yesterday? And so this third step prayer starts my day every single day. And then it's all day long. And how do I know I need to surrender? How do I know I need to be doing a step 3? Because my body is signaling it to me. And I know that there's tension and there's forcing and there's upset. Something inside of me is off. That's how I know I'm in self-will. And that's how I know I need to be stepping into my step 3. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you so much, Candace. Such good stuff. And I've written down several questions here, and I want to get to one here in just a minute, but I want to first remind our live audience, if you have a question on step 3 for Candace, please type it in the chat. If you'd like me to not read your first name, and if you'd like to remain completely anonymous, send me a direct message of that question, and we'll get to it as we go along here. I want to go back a few minutes to something that I heard you share that just it hit me. It hit me, and I want to hear your experience from this. You said that a little while ago, God told you something. He said, progress is perfection. Talk about what that means to you and how that, opened your eyes and mind to something different.
I love it. Thank you, Justin. That's such a good question. You see, I have a human brain that is very, very limited, and I can only see very, very little. So in my perception, I'm never far enough. I'm always chasing, I don't even know what. And I'm always messing up, and it's never, ever enough. But if I stop and I pause and I listen to God, and I really, really take the time to look, there is always progress happening if I'm working my steps and working with others every single day. It might not look like my limited human brain looks like. And by the way, that needs to be the big firework stuff for me to think that it's working. And God is going, every time I say amends, every time I say sorry, the smallest things are the progress. And God often says to me, don't miss the miracle. It's not all the big things. So it's the fact that I got out of bed on a day that I didn't want to get out of bed. That's progress. I wouldn't have done that when I was in active addiction. I would have found a reason to stay in bed. It's all the little things that I missed before, and it's the progress. And that's enough. God's going, progress is enough. And let it be enough. But you see, the enoughness with my brain, that's what we're working on, God, now.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M. and me, Justin B., on Rico 12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M., streaming now on your favorite podcast platform. It's so beautiful and so relatable to me. You know, I often think that it's all or nothing. Perfection is black and white. It is all or nothing. And the phrase progress, not perfection, has always brought me some comfort, but I love how this just developed a little bit more from your experience. Thank you for sharing that, Candace. I really appreciate it. All right. Next question comes from our live audience. It's an anonymous question, and I think this is pretty powerful. So, and I posted it in the chat if you want to read along to make sure you get it here. But I have a diagnosed mental health condition, yet the book tells us we can get well regardless of our circumstances. However, I feel like that's not possible for me, and my condition is getting in the way of me being able to work a consistent program. Do you have any experience, strength, and hope in this, Candace?
Wow. This is a really, really good one. Again, we don't know. Like, we don't know why God puts things on our path. We don't know why God removes people. We don't know why people die. We don't know why we're given conditions. And it's our human thinking that thinks things are good and bad and right and wrong. And I'm coming to see that God is really a God of isness. It just is what it is. And I have a liar in my head that tells me that there are certain fundamental reasons that I cannot recover. And as long as I'm listening to that, and I have met people in recovery that have literally, it's the one disease I've heard and I've seen for myself where you walk in, you're diagnosed with a disease, because it really is a disease. And by the time you leave and you've recovered, you never leave. By the time you've been diagnosed and you've recovered, you are better than when you walked in. And so I think it's about going like, I don't know why God has given me this condition, but I know that God doesn't make mistakes. And there is nothing about God that has ever made a mistake. Never, ever. In our human limited thinking, absolutely. We'll probably never understand everything. But it's about going like, I wouldn't choose this and I wouldn't want this, but I don't understand it. And this is where God comes in. My prayers are so different today. It's like, God, you've given me this condition and I don't know why you've given it to me, but show me how. Show me how to be with this condition. Show me who I need to be. And we've got to ask the right questions, because you absolutely can recover, but not on your own ever, and not with the thinking that this disease will never allow you to recover. Then you probably won't. I like, it feels like I don't have experience in this field, but I don't think it's very different to everything else that we say is a reason we can't recover. So there is always, always, always hope. But if it feels bigger than us, which I think this sounds like it's way bigger than you, Anonymous, it sounds way bigger than you, then it's great. It's supposed to feel bigger than you. And that's how you know you need to call God in and go like, I don't know, this is bigger than me. Show me, show me, show me.
Yeah, and that's great, Candace. And I wrote down a similar question early on in your share. You talked about how you had, gone to therapy, psychologist, psychiatrist, trauma counselor, all of these different things, and the human aid, it was beyond human aid. Your recovery, your wellness was beyond human aid. We also had Michael, who's one of our things here, saying the 12 steps is a spiritual program. If I have mental health issues, I see a therapist. Financial issues, I see a financial advisor. Eating issues, I see a nutritionist. Yes. So talk to us about the properly appointed authorities and like what you said, how do those jive? How do those work together? And how do I go to the right place?
That's beautiful. So I do believe God uses people to help us. So God will speak through people. God will bring us people. But absolutely, I go to God first. So I would like to say, like, the properly appointed authority is always God first. And then God will say to me in my prayers and meditation, like, reach out to this one or go to that one. But every time I need to so a human is going to give me the answers. And then I still need to decide for myself if that is true or not, because humans are imperfect. And if I follow a human's advice that isn't God-centered or big book-centered or recovery-centered, I can also get into a lot of trouble. So, that piece in the big book that says we have no opinion on outside matters. So, like, if somebody gives us their opinion, we still need to see if that's a fit for us. And where do we find that space? When we go to God. And, Justin, in my absolute darkest times, when I was so desperate, where I was literally sitting in front of trauma counselors, in front of psychologists, in psychiatric hospitals, I just had the clear, I didn't believe in a God. And I had the clearest voice every time saying, you don't need these people. The answers are inside of you. That voice was the same every single time, even when I didn't believe in God. So the properly appointed authority is always God first. And then God brings me the right person. And sometimes it's the wrong person. And then I need to learn a lesson there, or I need to learn or grow or see a character defect. Or I always say to God, show me, is this going to be the next right thing or the next best lesson? But again, I don't think there's one perfect answer. It's always centered in God. And then Cameron F says, have an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out. So that's where we go back at the end of the day and we go, God, is this true for you? And people make mistakes and we need to be aware of that.
No, that's some good stuff. Thank you. And yeah, the properly appointed authority is, I love how you said we go to God first and then God brings that person into our lives. And hopefully that, leads us to the next place where we go, okay, God, thank you. Now what? What's the next right thing? Love that. You talked about how when you gain consciousness in the morning, your eyes open, you're going into the third step prayer right away. A few times you're saying this. And I think this is especially on days when you don't want to get out of bed. And I had one of those mornings this morning. I was like laying there and I'm like, I'm not feeling this today. I want to lay here in this warm bed and stay here. And then something you said very early on in the share, in fact, I think it might have been one of your opening lines, It's not in the wishing and hoping and thinking. It's in the doing. Talk to us about getting our butt out of bed in the morning and doing something when we just don't feel like it, and how that relates to step 3.
Our troubles are of our own making. We know that when we stay in bed, it's a really bad space to be because we are sitting in ourselves. And we know that the best thing to do is to get our butts out of bed. And I can scientifically prove this. On the days that I snooze and the lie gets in and tells me just today, half an hour extra, my entire day is heavy and horrible. My entire day. So why am I doing it? Well, maybe it's because I haven't been properly learned this yet. But that space, and I love this because if I speak to my brother and sister, they have no idea what I'm talking about because they don't understand what our minds do first thing in the morning. So when we action for me, I'm never going to find the answer or at least I'm never going to find the solution where I found the problem. And the problem is in my thinking. So when I sit in quiet, first thing in the morning, when my addict is its strongest, there are no thoughts ever in that space that are going to be helpful. So how do I get out of my head? I get up. It's of action. Or if I'm sitting and I'm stressing and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm fearful and I'm behind my laptop and emails just come in, I get up. I walk around. I call a fellow. I read the big book. I write in my journal. But every single one of these is a verb. It's an action. And when I do, I get out of myself. And so, it's never, ever, ever worked to think it through and try to figure it out in the place where all the trouble starts.
Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform. Beautiful. Awesome. Got another question that just came in from an anonymous participant here, and I'm going to read that. It's in the chat. Thank you for your share. It is so powerful. You mentioned this is a painful process. Can you expand on how you get through those ever so painful moments? How do you actually sit in the pain without drowning in it? What's your experience on that, Candace?
I'm covered in goosebumps, God bumps. Do you see what we tell ourselves? We tell ourselves, I'm drowning in it. I used to wake up in the morning and go, I am falling apart. And then I'd stand up and I'd go, hold on. I look pretty much all together. So the truth is, we're not drowning in it. We're not falling apart. We're not splitting at the seams. We are sitting in discomfort, and our discomfort muscles are really weak as addicts because for all our lives, we have avoided sitting in it. And with everything that is uncomfortable, with anything that gets, like if you learn to play the piano, it takes consistent effort, consistent practice until eventually you can sit in it. So until you can eventually play the piano. So it starts with just going, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. I have to acknowledge my feelings because I haven't been able to do that before. So I have to say things like, God, this is unbearably uncomfortable. I need to have your help. And then notice that I want to run away from myself. And then in the beginning, I set a timer, 5 minutes. Oh my God, that 5 minutes felt like 50 minutes. And then eventually I could sit for 5 minutes in the discomfort. And then I set it for 10 minutes. And then it was 15 minutes. But you know what? Now I can really see clearly that those really big emotions, if I give them all the attention that I never gave them when I was in my active addiction, and I fully give them all my presence, they pass. And they pass so much quicker. My addict brain is going to think it's going to last forever. And it's a wave. It's a wave of the sea. Sometimes it's a tsunami. Literally, it feels like but even a tsunami passes. And so discomfort is a muscle. It is going to be uncomfortable. And it has to be a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And then slowly but surely, you look back and you're like, I didn't die. I didn't fall apart. And actually, that feels really good. So now when the tears come up, I cry the tears. When the fear comes up, I shake the fear. Like it's a trembling, not being, it's like fully embraced. And I believe that's part of emotional sobriety. Fully feel the feeling, and then it goes. It passes like the waves of the sea.
You know, you said something there that really hit me, and then we've got another comment or question from the audience here, but you said, you know, my sit in discomfort muscles are so weak because I've spent so many years not sitting in discomfort but running away. My running away muscles are powerful and quick, and they're well exercised, but I just need to sit in that discomfort. It's not going to kill me. It's discomfort. It's uncomfortable and it may hurt, but it's not going to kill me. I love how you brought that in. Next question. And this is, you mentioned, you use the phrase, you know, I got to get outside of the box. And I think you'll do a fantastic job of this. One of our audience members asked, what does that mean? Get outside of the box. It is an English phrase. So maybe somebody who, or, you know, whatever, but explain what that means.
I'm not sure what I was referring to when I spoke about getting out of the box. Can you remember?
I think it was just about seeing things from a different perspective, you know?
Okay, yes. So I'm very, very, I always had myself pinned at somebody who was open-minded, but realized that I was literally like, I had blinkers on, and it was my way or the highway, and I was living in a box. And stepping out of that box for me means biting my tongue when I want to defend myself. Pausing, because why? Because somebody's just about to tell me something, which I think I already know, but I actually don't. Because why? I know nothing. I literally know nothing. I thought I knew everything, but I know nothing. And so it's about noticing, and then going, Candace, just bite your tongue. Bite your tongue, pause, don't say anything, and listen. So it's about having an open mind and going like, I don't know. Out of the box for me is going, I don't know why this terrible thing in my mind is happening, but God does. So my box is my humanness, and stepping out is stepping into the unknown, which is terrifying, but that's where the magic happens, where I don't know, but God does.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you explain that. To me, that relates very closely to like the set aside prayer. God, I don't know. Help me set it aside and show me something new, which is scary. But when I get to see things from a different perspective and see something from a new angle, it can be very enlightening. All right. So this next question that I have for you comes from another anonymous attendee here, Candace. And it steps a little bit outside of step 3, but I think it's really important. I remember back to first times I went to an in-person meeting and just feeling terrified about that. This person says, could you please share your thoughts on attending an in-person SLAA meeting for the first time, like a sex addiction type meeting, sex and love addiction type meeting in person? What were your thoughts? What is your perspective on that?
I mean, it's very scary. Like the SLAA preambles say, like, we know how uncomfortable this is to walk into a meeting for the first time. And I remember my first SLAA meeting, it was the 31st of December, 2024. And I literally ran in there. I was so desperate. And as they read those characteristics of sex and love addiction, I felt this absolute ease and comfort wash over my body, because I was like, oh my God, are you joking? I have all 12 characteristics out of the 12 characteristics. And it was the first time that I got to see that my love, sex, everything addiction is exactly as an alcoholic. Exactly as alcohol is to an alcoholic, cocaine is to a drug addict, and that I had to put my drug of choice down, which was another human being, in order to recover. So we always think we're so unique. Everybody's petrified the first time that they walk into those SLAA meetings, but everybody knows how it feels. So it's the most comforting thing to see that I'm not alone, to hear those preambles, to speak to fellows who are just kind and caring and for me and want to help. And yes, the liar in my head tells me it's scary, and it is actually just home. It's like, I can't believe I took so long to get here, but when I walk in here, thank God I'm home.
Yeah, and my experience is somewhat similar. I wanted to run out of there after the first meeting as quick as possible, because I had made up my mind. I am going to sit here for an hour, and I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to say, well, that didn't work either. But I was chased down by somebody who said, hey, you're in the right place, and I will see you back here next week. And God knew that I needed somebody to challenge me, because I'm not going to back down from a challenge. That's how I'm wired. Somebody's challenging me, I'm gonna do it. Well, and eventually God broke me down, and here I am. Let's see, first time I went into a room was in September of 2013, and here I am still going strong, which is a miracle.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that is a step 3 thing. I'm turning my will and my life over, whether it's willing or knowing at first, to a power greater than myself that can take care of me when I step into those rooms for the first time. I'm practicing that. Does that make sense to you, Candace?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Good. All right. So there's a third step promise that you read as we were going through the books, and I want to get your take on this and tell me how this manifests in your life. Established on such a footing, meaning the previous things I've made God my director. I'm trying to do the work, keep close to him, performing his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs, and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Talk to me about how that promise manifests in your life.
Beautiful. I was so obsessed with getting what I wanted, or being petrified of not getting what I wanted. And those things now, when I see this fellowship growing, when I see lives changing, when I get to work one-on-one with other people and literally see them transform to completely different human beings, I'm like, this is what life is about. And this is what gives me the quality of life that I've been yearning for. It's the opposite of the empty God-shaped hole. It is full, it is rich, it is so good. And that's how I know those little plans and the little things that I wanted, they were never it. They were never the solution. They were never going to bring me the freedom. They were never going to make me feel whole and useful. And it really is about what I can bring to this world every single day.
Hey, Rico 12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Rico 12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at rico12.com/support, or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Rico 12 Spearhead. Beautiful. All right. I want to read step 3 real quick and then ask you a specific question about a word in step 3 that it took me a long time to see this word, even though it's in squiggly writing. It's in italics here. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Talk to me about why you think it's past tense understood rather than as we understand him. What's your experience with it?
Wow. That is so interesting. I've never, ever, ever looked at that word. Just give me one more second here.
Yeah.
Understood. And you see, what I've done in my workbook is I've put experienced. So for me, God isn't about an understanding. God is about an experiencing. And it's every time, I'm in step 3 and seeing how God shows up in my life that I get to have this relationship with God. And it isn't something that I can even begin to comprehend. So I'm not sure that answered your question, but for me, I fill that word in with something that fits for me, which is the experience of what God is to me in my life. And that changes. Like if I look at shares from even, 3 months ago, like what I shared about God, which was my absolute truth, I'm like, holy poop. Like I had a very limited understanding of what that was and a very limited experience compared to even now. And I'm excited to see where that goes because I know it's just going to keep deepening.
Yeah, and I want to add to that from my understanding now, and it's very similar. It's in italics there in step 3, and once again in step 11, as we understood him, we sought to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood. And I think that past tense for me means it's got to keep changing. It's got to keep growing. If I see God the same today as I saw God, like you said, 3 months ago, it's going to get stale. I have to keep seeking more and more understanding. And, but I can't understand a future. I have to understand what it is today, which as soon as I do it, it's in the past. And that's kind of how I see that. And I don't know if that makes any sense to people, but man, has it been powerful to me.
Absolutely does.
Yeah. All right. We have another anonymous question from our live audience, and we'll get close to wrapping up with this. For me, step 3 is all about getting out of self and being of service to the people around me. For me, I'm trying to get through the steps, and step 4 really takes a lot of time. Yet I feel like all that time I can be helpful to my family and others. So how do I balance trying to work my steps and not be absorbed in myself and with my own recovery? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, this is such a good question. So if step 4 is taking a really long time, that's the red flag right there. I've done step 4s that took a really long time and I just kept relapsing. And then I just kept being in active addiction because I know that the step 4s I used to do was getting into my column. I was so stuck in what other people had done and making sure that I had made literally inventoried every single thing that's ever been done to me. And the way that I work my step 4 now, which is with the workbook and the undiluted big book, it is get out of column 2 as quickly as possible, get into your part that you have to play. I give my sponsees 1 week to do the 1 week to do each inventory, and many times they do it quicker. So it's 1 week to do resentment inventory, 1 week to do fears, and the other one to do harms, because I know that feeling. And then I just want to say one thing that's coming in really, really strongly. If you feel stuck in any steps, you have to experience the 12-step 4-hour workshop, which actually happens to be this Sunday. When I experienced that workshop, it doesn't replace working one-on-one. It doesn't replace working your steps, but it helps you to see in 4 hours how every single piece of the 12 steps fits together and how you're going to be living them for the rest of your life. And I was already doing my 11 steps when I hadn't really, just from that workshop. I was getting into bed at night, doing 7-step prayers. I was waking up in the morning, doing certain things. So I just do not delay on any step, because it is in the delay that we find ourselves relapsing. And there is no reason to do that. So, I'm happy to put my number in the chat. I'm going to do that anyway. If whoever asked that question wants to contact me for some really good tips of how not to delay the step 4. I can't be more urgent about a step 4 than what I'm trying to come across right now.
Yeah, no, this is really good. And you mentioned that 12 step in 4 hours workshop that's happening this Sunday. If anybody out there wants information on that, I've put the link in the chat right now, 12steps4hours.org, and I will put it in the show notes of the podcast also. Happens on the last Sunday of every month, and I've attended several, and it has been very powerful for me. I invite anybody to do that at least once a year, at least. It's good stuff. All right. So before we close out here, Candace, do you have any final words of wisdom to share with us?
Just keep going. Like, the only way you won't succeed is if you stop. The only way you won't succeed is if you stop. And when it gets hard, rely on God, rely on, it's not the meetings. Literally, the big book is like, we don't recover from the meetings we take. We recover from the steps we take. The meetings we make, we recover from the steps we take. So get your head into your steps. Make it your priority. Don't delay. And when it is hard, you just got to keep going. And then you will recover. You will if you work your steps thoroughly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Candace. And to anybody who wants to contact Candace, she put her number in the chat here. If you out there in the podcast world are listening, you're like, man, I want to get a hold of her, send me an email at rico12pod@gmail.com. I'll get you connected with Candace that way, and you can have these conversations with her. Come back next week as we continue our 12-week series on the 12 steps with step 4. Luke H., who's spoken to us once before on meeting number 343, will share his experience, strength, and hope on step 4. Now, there are still 2 steps that need to be covered for this series. So if anybody out there has step 5 or step 10 that are speaking to you and just weighing on your heart, reach out to me. Send me an email. We'll get you lined up for that, and stay updated via WhatsApp and our email list. All right. Candace, why don't you pray us out with the 3rd step prayer?
Thank you, Justin. I'm going to pause after each section so we can really meditate on what these words mean for us. Just take a moment to arrive and think about those who have not been lucky enough as yet to find these rooms. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. By Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life, may I do Thy will always.
Thank you so much, Candace, and thank you all for being here. Remember, everybody, there is one that has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back, and when you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
I've seen stars fall from above. I've fallen in and out of love. I've been high and I've been low. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. I've seen a boy become a man. He got lost without a plan. He's so far away from home. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. I'm looking for the words to say. You make the world a better place, and I can call that place my home. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms stars fall from above. I fell in and out of love. I got high and I fell low. But now I know that I just can't do this on my own. No, I just can't do this on my own. I just can't do this on my own.